Where did you pursue your studies?
Well, for the priesthood in Trinidad, first with the Holy Ghost Fathers, because as I mentioned earlier, that's where I began my journey towards the priesthood. And I've completed philosophy with the Holy Ghost Fathers. Then when Barbados was made a diocese and the new bishop, Bishop Dixon, was looking around for local priests and realized that there were no local priests in Barbados, and I was the only one anywhere in studying. And he asked the congregation about my working in Barbados. And so after chatting about it and praying about it, I decided to join the diocese, and from then I went to the seminary of St. John Vianney in Trinidad, where I continued my theology. And after that, I went to Canada for a year of clinical pastoral education, which was held by the University of Toronto. And then I had a session of it with the psychiatric hospital as well. And I came home. That all ended in 1975. And I came home and was ordained on the 15th of August, 1975.
What is your most memorable moment in Barbados since being ordained?
Well, I must say my whole ministry in Barbados was very exciting, because I came on the scene as a young priest with ideas that I had, picked up in the seminary in Trinidad, in Canada, and all this would have influenced me. And after ordination, I was assigned to the Church of Our Lady Queen of the Universe in Blackrock, and there was I began to put into action some of the things that I would have learned. And I used to talk about it as the church of what's happening now. Also, during that period, I was chaplain to the university, and there you're meeting young, bright students from across the Caribbean, and they kept you challenged intellectually and otherwise. And it was fun, working with this group of young people. And during that time, I would have introduced what was known as Catholic Forum, which was held every Monday night at the Blackrock Cultural Center. And I would engage some of the minds of university lecturers and so on. Two people that stand out would have been Dr. Neville Duncan and Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. They would come along and they participated in many ways. And it was something that brought people together every Monday night. People come from all over the island. The hall used to be packed with people listening to some of these lectures and asking questions. And then I decided, how do you bring the church into the world? And that's where I got involved with cultural activities. Many people think in terms of my being involved with crop over, but it was more than crop over. It was cultural activities in general. I was instrumental in getting going a choir at Blackrock, Shalom Singers. These were young people from the parish and the area who would come together every Saturday evening, and they would perform, they would sing. And then came the crop over bit and participating in Kadooman, bring out bands which raise eyebrows all over the place. How can a priest be involved in crop over, blah, blah, blah. And, but for about 4 years, I would have been bringing out this band. And eventually many people have come to accept and understand why I was bringing out a band, not just to have fun, but also to show that the church can be in the public arena and witness to Jesus. So I remember those. One of the other things that I was involved in that I remember very well, and that is when people were thinking of celebrating the 500th anniversary of Columbus coming to the New World. And some of us were saying that Columbus didn't really discover these parts. There were people here before, and as a result of his coming, some of the negative spin-off, slavery being one of the biggest part of it. And so we organized what was called the Middle Passage, and I would have invited, I got help from the Caribbean Conference of Churches and the World Council of Churches, and so we were able to bring together persons from across the region to discuss what this whole event meant for us in the Caribbean. And professors from university in Jamaica, Trinidad, and then we had people from Suriname, all participating in this. It was a great event that was held again at the Black Rock Cultural Center and at the Verdun House, where we had the retreat center. So that is something I would always remember. At that time too, I used to represent the Caribbean Conference of Churches in different places. And I went to Brazil, where there was a conference on, the whole experience of slavery in this part of the world. So I went along to that, and there I would have met. It was the first coming together of African persons in the Americas and the Caribbean. And during that period, I met with some person, and I said, could we form a group that would keep this dialogue going? It was called CAD, Caribbean African American Dialogue. And that went on for quite some time until I left Barbados. We had people from Bahamas, from the US of A, and from the Caribbean being part of that discussion, that forum. And so I would say those would be some of the things I remember. I also used to work with a lot of the young people. The Barbados Youth Council at that time, I interacted with them and worked with them, and they remember that and they appreciate all that I did. And one of the persons who encouraged me a lot was Dame Nita Barrow. And, she used to come along and be part of it. She was part of that dialogue I mentioned earlier on the Middle Passage. And she would come along to the youth gatherings, She was very, very a wonderful person. And always, when people criticized me, she was always there to support me. And would always invite me to Government House to either function or just to sit and chat, to the point where I began to feel that I was a member of the Barrow family. And to this day, because they all would have met me, at that time. And when I left Barbados, I remember coming home for Christmas, and she had a little get-together, just a few people at her house for All Year's Night, New Year's Eve. So she invited me, we had a wonderful time, that evening until morning broke. So yes, very pleasant moment. But as I said, or indicated earlier, challenging as well, because a lot of persons living in Barbados, and Barbados is a rather conservative society, and they couldn't understand because their notion of church was so different to my understanding of church. And I was also very much influenced by the theology that was coming out of Latin America and the Black American context. So that was influencing me a lot in the way I think and in the way I lived church.